Hi, David. How are you?
James, good afternoon.
Good. Listen, I ran that video that I know that you are running on your blog as well, and I find it to be a very interesting video. What's your take?
Well, I'd like to address comments made by both State Senator Ginny Burdick and Oregon Ceasefire's Sean Alford, because they both make what are presented as definitive statements with no qualification and in many cases absolutely no reason to offer those opinions other than they're just saying it. Senator Burdick is no friend of gun owners, and she proves that right out of the starting gate when she refers to people who believe that they have a right to defend themselves as gun rights extremists. Well, right then and there you have no duty to carry on a dialogue because you've been insulted. She makes the unfounded claim that we say that if you can just simply shoot, ask any police officer who's been in the situation, it's not that simple. I don't know anyone who's ever suggested that armed defense is simple. Everyone I know who responsibly advocates armed defense advocates training, advocates preparation, advocates mindset, advocates knowledge of equipment, advocates more training. I don't know anyone who is foolish enough to think that it's like something like you see on television, except the people who are ignorant of it and who would proffer something like we think it's simple. She talks about a false sense of security, and she says the statistics back her up. What she's really talking about is a study that was done by an Emory trauma surgeon, Emory University, Arthur Kellerman, who put together a survey, and the numbers have changed over the years from the 1980s when he first came out with it. Initially it was like you're 43 times to 1 more likely to be killed if you have a gun in the home than if you don't, and then the numbers as they've been challenged over the years have gone down. But the bottom line on the Kellerman study is that he made no attempt to differentiate between law-abiding peaceable gun owners like you and I and crack houses, where in fact the presence of a gun in the home can result in violence happening and just things like that. So I mean, you're talking apples and oranges there. Yeah, if you're going to be talking about criminal houses and places where there are armed prohibited persons with drug and alcohol problems and things like that, I would venture to say, yeah, you're probably going to see more incidences of all kinds of law breaking going on in that type of environment. But that doesn't mean that those statistics can be broad brushed applied to you or I. A quote from Dr. Kellerman, and this is something that the antis don't like to highlight very much, but he told this to Health Magazine back in their 1994 March-April issue, and I have to read this, so excuse me. He says, if you've got to resist, your chances of being hurt are less, the more lethal your weapon. If that were my wife, would I want her to have a .38 Special in her hand? Yeah. So, I mean, this is coming from the guy who authors the study. So, again, Senator Burdick, I'm sorry, but armed defense can work. We're not saying that it always works. We're not saying that it's simple. What we are saying is that the choice is ours, not yours. So.
Yeah, David, I actually think that the gentleman in that clip from Oregon, I think he was the Oregon organization there for guns. I think he made an excellent point there when he said that you're not giving up your right going on campus armed. I mean, you're armed before you got there, then why is it that I can no longer have that on campus? We're talking about adults here. I think he made an excellent point on that, and I don't see any reason why there should be laws, and I've yet to hear the reasons why they want to enforce that and not allow you to have guns on campus.
Well, that was Kevin Starrett of the Oregon Firearms Federation. Good man. I need to introduce you to him sometime via email. And I do what I can to promote what his organization does, both on the war on guns and through the Gun Rights Examiner. It was interesting, the case that he was talking about, the student, the Marine who was charged and arrested with carrying a gun on campus, and initially they went after him. I believe his name was Maxwell, and they went after him on a felony charge. But it turns out that under Oregon law, in fact, if you have the concealed carry permit that he had, he broke no law, and it did not apply to him. And the district attorney, as a result, did not prefer charges against him, although the university, in fact, did do a student hearing against him, and I believe they tried to expel him. I'm not sure exactly how that worked out, but I think it was kind of scary and almost like a Stalinist type society where they try to force someone to recant, and they say that you need to have a mental health evaluation. And this all goes into what Colonel Jeff Cooper called hoplophobia, fear of weapons. And yet the people who do not have that fear, the people who have a healthy respect, the people who have training, and the people who believe that they in fact have a right to bear arms and a right to defend themselves are the ones who are labeled as extremists, and the ones who are labeled as the ones who need some type of mental health intervention. And in terms of the reasons why, I think that we had those elaborated by Oregon ceasefire Sean Alford, who without any kind of proof or anything says that you're putting people in danger, that schools are more sensitive places for you to lose your gun, as if, you know, how many cases does she have on that happening, that a shootout in the classroom, that the possibilities on how it could go wrong are far greater than personal protection. I fail to see how anyone pulling a gun on someone like Cho at Virginia Tech would have been putting anybody in more danger, or had a teacher been armed at Columbine and been able to stop those madmen. You know, at Columbine, when one of the shooters emerged, a school resources officer was armed, and he exchanged fire with, I'm not sure if it was Harris or Klebold, but the end result was the gunman ran back inside the building and disengaged, because as crazy as they are, they act rationally when they're under fire, and they get away, and they choose defenseless victims. It gets to be absurd when she said that universities have an obligation to protect faculty and students. How? How are you going to do that if you mandate that they be helpless? That makes absolutely no sense. She talks about the pressures of graduation, school, the job search. James, I don't know about you, I've never met anyone who has not had pressures in life. Yeah. Serious pressures.
You know, David, pressures. I don't think there is a gun-free zone that violence has not occurred in.